what's going on in the world today, then you've come to the right place. Welcome to Southern Sense Talk Radio with your host, Annie, the Radio Chick-A-Dee, and featuring Curtis C.S. Bennett and the most interesting guests that you'll find anywhere on Internet radio. So sit back, relax, and remember, Southern Sense is common sense.
All right, and welcome to another adventure here, live on Southern Sense. I'm your hostess with the least mostest, the Radio Chick-A-Dee, Annie. And Curtis will be joining us a little bit later in the show if you are watching us live. He had a little domestic problem, and his wife has him installing a new toilet or something. I don't know. But we have a lot to talk about. He will be joining us, a lot to do. Our guest today is someone that I've known for quite a while. Never met him face to face, but we've talked often on the phone, exchanged emails, and he sends a lot of his guests, his clients over here to be guests on the show. And he has a new book out, and it's called, let me make sure I get this correct, The White Privilege Album, Bringing Racial Harmony to Very Fine People on Both Sides. It is political humor. I've read it cover to cover. It's great, and he will be joining us a little bit. With that said, we're going to be talking also about Trump's new appointments that he has been lining up. Some of them seem to be controversial, and some of them seem to be absolutely awesome. So we'll be going through that with AJ, talking about his book and everything else that's going on, and how the Democrats are now going absolutely nuts because 49 out of the 50 states in overall voting was leaning red, not blue. So we made a huge headway in the November 5th election, and we're still making it. Pennsylvania is going on a recount for McCormick. That's a whole nother story we can talk about as we have our guests and Curtis back with us. Okay, that said, those that listen to the show know that we start out each and every show with a dedication to a fallen hero. And today's dedication is going to go out to Agent Davis Geovanni Martinez. He was with the Maryland Department of Public Safety and Correctional Services, the Division of Parole and Probation in Maryland. His end of watch was Friday, May 31st of this year.
New tonight, a final farewell to a Maryland parole agent killed in the line of duty last month. Hundreds attended services for Agent Davis Martinez today, among them Maryland Governor Wes Moore, who promised to work to see that this kind of tragedy would not be repeated. News 4's Derek Ward has details on how Agent Martinez is being remembered.
It wasn't unusual for parole agent Davis Martinez's daily routine to include checking in on some of society's most dangerous convicted offenders. On March 31st, a check-in on parolee and registered sex offender Emmanuel Edward Sewell at his Chevy Chase apartment proved anything but routine and showed just how dangerous that proximity to criminality can be.
A time when we struggle for the soul of our world. At a time when we receive a lot of unneeded reminders of the fact that the world still needs healing. At a time when we receive unneeded reminders of the fact that so much of our society still seems ruptured. We hold on to Davis because Davis gives us hope.
Hundreds of mourners from across the law enforcement spectrum paid tribute to the fallen parole agent. They performed the sad and solemn line of duty rituals that they have to perform all too often. And then the most personal of goodbyes from his girlfriend, Gypsy Barrientos.
I always found solace in your arms, knowing that your love wasn't a result of my achievements or productivity. You loved me simply for existing.
Nathaniel Massaquoi, a former colleague of Agent Martinez, recalls working with him. His respect and compassion for those for whom he was a steward with their return to society.
I went on home visits with Agent Martinez where we would stand at the door and he would ask for questions and he was very respectful of everybody that he engaged with.
Meanwhile, outside the Living Word International Christian Church in Silver Spring, a tribute, less formal but no less heartfelt, at Martinez's beloved Jeep Gladiator, the rubber duck phenomenon, a thing among Jeep owners like Lamont Brown, who came all the way from Baltimore.
This gentleman died in a very sad way, and I want to do all that I can to just come out and support him.
More of the kindred would pay tribute this way.
Now that the service is over, the question is, how does this agency proceed in the wake of this tragedy? There is some hopefulness among the people who are in this profession, and it comes from the words of the governor.
Continue to work together to ensure that something like this should never and will never happen again.
In Silver Spring, Derek Ward, News 4.
Let it be said, when we finish this race, we kept them free, we led with grace. Let it be seen, from sea to shining sea, beautiful America, living our legacy. Oh, father, mother, sister, brother, oh, we gotta learn to love each other. Oh, for the soul of the nation, for the next generation. Let us be known as people of honor, humble and bold, faithful through fire. Let us hold firm to our convictions with wide open hearts, eager to listen. Oh, father, mother, sister, brother, oh, we gotta learn to love each other. Oh, for the soul of the nation, for the next generation. Let us make room. Let us reimagine, welcoming voices with true compassion. Let's craft a world with hopes and dreams, the challenges known, those still unseen. Oh, father, mother, sister, brother, oh, we gotta learn to love each other. Oh, for the soul of the nation, for the next generation. Let us be sure, when our time has come, we gave them hope, we made them strong. Let it be said, when we finish this race, we kept them free, yeah, we led with grace. Oh, father, mother, sister, brother, oh, we gotta learn to love each other. Oh, Let it be said. Oh, father, mother, sister, brother. Oh, we gotta learn to love each other. Oh, for the soul of the nation, for the next generation.
Okay, we're back. You're watching Southern Sense live here on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, up on X, up on our homepage, which is southernsense.net. I'm the hostess with the least mostest, the Radio Chick-A-Dee, Annie. And as I said, Curtis is a little delayed with a whole project, and he should be with us very shortly as soon as he gets whatever he has to fix fixed. But what I don't know if you've been watching some of these clips, and people have been putting little mimes together on them of the people that are just going crazy because Donald Trump is our 47th president-elect. He's now making a huge, enormous number of picks for his cabinet and other appointments. And actually, believe it or not, the New York Times has just updated this today, and they've got 11 out of 24 confirmed for the Senate. Confirmation that they need for state attorney general would be Secretary of State Marco Rubio, for attorney general Matt Gaetz. There's little controversy going on there because there have been some allegations of some sexual misconduct he had. The Senate was doing their own ethics investigation, but since Gaetz has stepped down from Congress, I don't mean Senate. The Congress is making their own investigations, ethical investigations. Gaetz has stepped down, which leaves his seat open for appointment by Ron DeSantis, Governor DeSantis. But the question will be, when he goes before the Senate, will the Senate open up their own investigation into these allegations of sexual misconduct? Or will Donald Trump simply do and recess appointment with him, bypass that, and go 2 years down the road, and then have to come back before the Senate to be reconfirmed 2 years from now? This is all interesting that's going on. A lot of heat on choosing Pete Hegseth. But I was on another show. I do another show on Wednesdays called Moms Across America with a friend of mine, Vicki Tompkins. She is the El Paso County, Colorado GOP chair. And we were going over some of these, and I didn't know enough about Pete to fully say whether or not this was a good choice or not. I didn't know that he had worked in the financial market prior to joining the military. And he served in Iraq, Afghanistan, Gitmo. He's had 20 years in, retired as a major. He's got 2 Bronze Stars. He may have what we need. Something out of what's normally picked. Normally they'll take from whatever is in with the ranks and bring them forward. But maybe this is a reason why now we can get the wokeness out of our military with someone like Pete Hegseth in there. There's a lot of controversy. And matter of fact, Pocahontas. We're going to be talking about Pocahontas with our guest, AJ Rice, when he joins us at the bottom of the hour. Top of the hour. Forgive me. But Elizabeth Warren made a big mistake. She decided to go onto her social media, and she made a post disapproving it. She went on X, where she implied that his role as co-host in Fox News, Fox and Friends Weekend, was his only major credential. I'm sorry, this man served in Iraq, Afghanistan, and in Gitmo. He's 20 years in. He's got 2 Bronze Stars. He's had experience out in the business world prior to going to the military. He walked away from all that to go into the military. So there's a lot of heat that went back at her, and a lot of people fired back at her. It's some really, really good stuff. Evan Berryhill on X said, you left out some of his resume. And this is what we were talking about. 20 years of military service, 2 Bronze Stars, degrees from Princeton and Harvard when they were a school that wasn't woke, when they gave out really good degrees. Active with the veteran organization since leaving active duty. And as I understand, he also led some of those. So he does have administrative experience in dealing with large organizations. So I'm thinking that maybe this is what we need to bring our military back to its fighting strength. What the heck was I reading? Oh, not Newsweek. Oh, shoot. Just a brain fart. Where they broke down the problems with our Navy, how we don't have enough ships out there. And with all the stuff that they were doing, they can't repair them. They don't have enough facilities to repair them with. These are all things that I think maybe someone out of the left piece head could really dig into. Homeland Security, Kristi Noem. CIA, John Radcliffe. He's even pulling out Tulsi Gabbard for DNI. What the heck is DNI? I wish they put the full name down. Lee Zeldin for EPA. Oh my goodness, would love to get the EPA out of our daily life. Lisa Stefanik. Now, I agree she's a good pick for the UN. My problem with this is that we have a Democratic governor in New York, and if Lisa Stefanik leaves her seat, that leaves it up to appointment by a left-leaning Democratic governor. We may lose one seat there. For health, now this is interesting. Robert Kennedy Jr., Robert F. Kennedy, and everyone's saying he's got no medical experience. But maybe that's what the health needs. Maybe they need someone out of left field to turn around and say, explain to me why this is going to be good for the American people. Explain to me why you're delaying this treatment for approval. And he will be someone that turns around and says, well, I'm not going to rubber stamp everything. I want to see why we're going in this direction. I like it. Interior, now again, reaching it for people that have challenged him for the nomination, Doug Burgum. Now, Doug Collins, I agree, is very, very good for Veterans Affairs, really cleaning up that bureau. I mean, some of these things are absolutely excellent. And someone that no one knew about until she stood on stage with Donald Trump when he won the election, Susie Wiles. She was the one that orchestrated Donald Trump, Here to Victory campaign. She works in the background. She tells people, leave your ego at the door. This isn't a race. This isn't a challenge. You don't have to fight each other. She gets the teamwork done, and she reaches her goals. She's smart. She likes staying in the background, and maybe that's what we need, a good chief of staff. I don't know anything about this guy, James Blair, as deputy chief of staff. Some of these I don't know at all, but we'll be asking a lot. Now, borders are. Tom Holman, oh my God, has he hit the ground running? He's everywhere talking about securing the border, and this is what we need. And this is why the Democrats don't understand why they lost the election. They went on woke policies. They centered in on abortion instead of the economy. They centered in on transgenderism instead of, the economy and pocketbook issues. This is an excellent choice. National Security Advisor Mike Waltz. This is what everyone's talking about. Elon Musk working side by side with Vivek Ramaswamy as the government efficiencies. They can go in agency by agency, look at it, cut back all the fat and say whether or not we need that agency anymore. Do we need this branch of that agency? And pare down our government. I mean, I don't see how they're going to do it in 2 years, but it's going to be very, very interesting. So we have a lot to talk about when our guest does come in. And, I know what I wanted to say. The Navy. I was reading this in the National Review, an excellent article called Restoring Our Maritime Strength, an Agenda for the Next President's 400 Days by Jerry Hendricks and Brant Sadler. where they break down what all the problems were with our Navy, how we're understaffed, how the admirals are now, rear admirals are all woke. He wants them to go through and find out who is going to follow the president's agenda. So maybe this is a real good reason why Pete Hegseth is a good choice for there. So we have a lot, again, to say, to talk about. But instead of just listening to me ramble on, we're going to take a little bit of break. And this is the Justice for All by the J6 prisoners with Donald Trump.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, o'er the ramparts we watch, words so gallantly stream. And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thought you would like to see that, because I have a funny feeling when Donald Trump comes in, he's going to start reviewing the J6 cases and see who he can pardon, who he can get out, and maybe have our new Attorney General under Donald Trump review all the actions that have been taken against these men and women that have been sitting behind bars for years. And as we've had a previous guest on, Sarah McAfee, she was talking about her husband. He was moved 16 times over the 4 years he's been in prison. And it's crazy. Here he is, a former police officer who was helping another officer who's knocked down. Even though he was one of the crowd, he helped a fellow officer, and the officer testified on his behalf, and yet he remains behind bars. So there's a lot that we're going to learn once Donald Trump does take the Oval Office on January 20th. And I think there's going to be a collective sigh of relief. We're going to hear across the nation when we know he's safely in the White House. And they were talking about security for the Trump Towers in New York City, because Melania is going to be living with Barron in New York City. She'll be traveling back and forth to the White House. But that calls for extra security in New York City. So we wish the Trump family our prayers and prayers for their safety and for this nation. So it's going to be interesting going forward, what we're going to see going on. There would have been on Election Day a couple of fire bombings of some ballot boxes, and they've traced it down to just one individual, and they are looking for him. So thankfully, there wasn't a lot of disruption that we've seen at the ballot. We saw a couple of cases in Pennsylvania where they had closed polling place early, but they got it back up and running again immediately, got the people back in line, and they got their vote. I think the nation has said enough of being the wokeness, enough of lamestream media, what to think and how to think. And I think we as a nation were awakened. It's been a long time coming, and I've discussed this on a previous episode, but this started long before Trump ran for office. It started before Reagan even turned into a Republican from a Democrat. Those of us in Maine, the main part of America, the heart of America, that stand for what the founding principles were: individual liberty, freedom of speech, freedom to practice your religion openly without anyone interfering, freedom to bear arms to protect yourself in this nation, our constitutional rights, our inalienable rights given to us by our Creator. No more are you going to fine me for using the wrong pronoun. No more are you going to fine us for speaking our voice out against the COVID vaccines, or against masking, against the silencing of our voices. We have been heard, and this has been going on for a long time. There was the Reagan Revolution, where we saw the Blue Dog Democrats side with Reagan. And then we saw coming in with the rise of the Tea Parties back in 2009. And they saw what happened to us when they tried to silence us, when they tried to stick the IRS on us. Well, I'll tell you what, it didn't work here, because for the last 15 years, yes, 15 years, I've successfully run a Tea Party here in my county. I've been able to hold my voice here for 14 years. Yeah, I've been silenced in certain medias. I've been shadow banned in certain places. But they're opening back up again, and our voice is going to be heard once again. And we're going to stand proud. And we are going to say that we will bow before no master, before our God. But before our God, we will. And we will say we are proud to be American. What makes us uniquely American, the melting pot that was meant to be. Instead of dividing us and pitting one side against the other, uniting us again, and once more in a voice that said, stop it. Leave us alone. Let us keep the freedoms that the pilgrims came here to find, that our forefathers put together in 1760 and began the revolution that created this nation. We will stand united, and we will stand proud. And with that, I'm going to take a few minutes and give you Big Don.
Big Don, Big Don. Every morning on time, you could see him arrive. He stood 6'3" and weighed 235, kind of broad at the shoulder and fast with the lip. And everybody knew you didn't give no shit to Big Don. Big Don, Big Don, Big Bad Don. Through the dust and the smoke of this Democrat hell walked a giant of a man that the Patriots knew well, grabbed a sagging economy and let out with a groan, and like a mighty oak tree just stood there alone, Big Don. I'm talking about our man Donald Trump. He's the president now, and all you chumps can just settle down and stay in your safe space. We're about to make America a better place with Big Don. Big Don, Big Don, Big Bad Don. Well, old Don got to work because we got problems to be solved, and the Democrats shouted, the Russians are involved, brought out their special counsel with Robert Mueller. Too bad the wall just got 10 feet taller with Big Don. Well, they will lie and cheat and steal and threaten and pander to illegals before our veterans, but we're over these liberals loading our country in a hearse. It's about time to put America first with Big Don. Big Don, Big Don, Big Bad Don. We're gonna put these criminals where they belong. We got people like Hannity and Julian Assange and all the centipedes following QAnon, and Americans like me just singing my song for Big Don. The path ain't easy cause the devil's working hard, but we got God on our side and he's playing his trump card. Just remember, my countrymen, to always stick together. Fake news can't stop us from making this world better with Big Don. Big Don, Big Don, Big Bad Don. When it's all said and done, America will be great, and we'll build a statue just to commemorate a great man with these words on the slate. Thanks to the people's power, a man came from his tower to save America in its final hour. Big Don. Big Don. Big Don. Big Bad Don.
All right, and we are here, and we're back. We're live here on Southern Sense. I'm your hostess, Annie Ubelis, and we have the one, the only, AJ Rice, the CEO and founder of Publius PR, who I love dearly. And I've actually read your book cover to cover, and you know I do that every one you send me. There was one I didn't. The one I didn't, but I usually do. I got 32 pages of notes for you.
Oh, no. How long is this interview going to be? It's going to be here till Inauguration Day.
Yeah. Right. It's funny because I was there at his inauguration back in 2017. I went as a guest of Congressman Joe Wilson. Joe, and I know Alan Wilson, well, he's our state attorney general. So they got me in, and it was really fun because we were directly behind the Capitol. I would love to do that again. Hey, Joe, you listening? Joe, you lie, Wilson.
That's right. I mean, that's going to be quite the triumphant return considering the events of January 6th and some of the garbage that they threw at him, over the last sort of 4 years. I mean, it's going to be quite the scene. We'll see if any Democrats decide to protest.
All right. Well, you know what? This morning I was trying to figure out how to get the graphic of your book on the screen behind you, and you did it for me.
You don't need to. I'm shameless, Annie. I'm shameless. Are you kidding me? I'm shameless. Right? Get the white privilege album. Come on. I'm using my white privilege to put this behind me.
Well, I got to say, I was trying to remember how long I've known you because I started the show here in 2010 with my late husband, and it was just something as a lark, Blog Talk Radio is brand new, so he said, "Let's just find out." And believe it or not, our very first show was on flatulence.
Really?
Yeah.
It was a show. It was a show. Wait, it was a show about Joe Biden. I guess he was the vice president then. So yeah. Wow.
But that's how we found that people wanted to hear a conservative message. So we started to grow from there. And somehow or other, you started Publius PR, and then you found me. I don't know how.
I think you ended up in the early list, because up until September of 2013, I wasn't doing PR like this. I was, a media consultant that was still producing shows.
Yeah.
I
was producing the ones you did. Laura Ingraham, you did her for 4 years. Then you did Monica Crowley, who's now on Newsmax, for 2 years. You also did the investigative news at the Washington Times for John Solomon for 3 years. That was called America's Morning News. And then later on, Glenn Beck brought you in to help with Blaze Radio. And
that was my last sort of producer gig, was the Beck gig. And look, my hosts that I was overseeing there for Beck were Buck Sexton, Chris Salcedo, and Jay Severin, the sort of famous Boston radio host. So they were my first three guys there. But that was the last time I was sort of producing any shows. I kind of took my production hat off after that and started doing this. I will say, Ingram brought me back to produce her last show that she ever did on radio. And that was in the fall of 17, I think. And we had a bunch, because she's had a bunch of famous producers, not just me. But we had Trump calling in and Limbaugh called in. Like people were all, we had them all lined up to call in. I think Mike Pence called in, all kinds of people, Hannity. So it was great. It was great. And that was Laura's last show. And it's funny, she gave me my first big boy job because I was her producer from 2005 to 2010. So for me to come back in 17, I'd been, not producing her. I've been done some other things. But it's interesting how things sort of work out and I was busting her stones on Monday night because this past Monday night I was on her TV show as a guest. So we're always having fun. She's
so now I'm a step down. I'm a step down.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I said there's nothing like being interviewed. No, you're not. I do everybody. Look, I'm not that guy. But I'll tell you. I will tell you. I am not. I know. Look, there's two types of people in my world. People that take a helicopter up to the top of the mountain and then try to ski down, right? And then the people that build the mountain and they have free range on the mountain to walk up and down the mountain. Okay? So for me, I don't forget anyone. I'm Irish Catholic. I have a long memory that is littered with grievances and revenge and whiskey. But it's funny. And I say this to her, it's always a pleasure to be on national television getting interviewed by your old boss. There's nothing better than that. So, and I say to Monica too. I mean, Monica puts me on her podcast, same thing. Because Ingram, just so you guys know, I mean, I've been doing Publius PR has existed now 12 years, give or take. We had our 10-year anniversary September of 23. And I will tell you, Laura and Monica in particular, they're kind of like my big sisters. They kind of, and every time I do something or I pop up on this or that, I always blame them. They created a monster. But they're mentors. They're like my sisters. And I had some others over the years, Andrew Breitbart and some others that helped me along the way. But those two in particular are really what kickstarted my game in the media world.
It's funny because when I first was working with you, I was also, I still run a Tea Party, still active, right. 15 years. And we used to have a convention here in Myrtle Beach every year. Joe Dugan, rest his soul, would do it. And the funny thing is, whenever I set up the radio program at there, I was representing my Tea Party as well as doing the show. The Blaze or someone would sit up on the table next to me. And they'd have like one or two people come over for interviews, but I'd have a line.
Wow, look at that.
Believe it or not, Alex Marlowe. And I remember him when I saw him on TV the other day and it said Alex Marlowe. I'm going, the young kid that sat next to me, boy, he bulked up, he slimmed down. What made me recognize him was his voice. I'm saying, oh, wow. Oh, yeah. And
he was Andrew's intern, and then he was like the first employee of Breitbart.com when he launched it. And he's still there. And, he's been putting out books. He's got like New York Times bestsellers and stuff. And, he's doing great. He interviewed me a couple of times when he was hosting the Sirius XM show. So he's a good dude. The Breitbart is doing some solid work still.
Yeah, they are. I have to apologize. My co-host had a problem at home. There was a problem with plumbing. I have some feeling had to deal with the bathroom. So as soon as he can, he will be joining us.
Another show about flatulence we're about to do. What's going on?
But we want to get to your book, and which is called The White Privilege Album, bringing racial harmony to very fine people on both sides. And as I was going through the book and making all my notes, I was comparing it to what has happened in this election cycle, and everything you write about in the book about the wokeness that is hurting us and explaining why this is wrong. was exactly what the Democrats were doing. And I'm saying, holy cow, it's as if you were predicting the election outcome. Because everyone was watching and listening to the media and the polls. I was going to be neck to neck, neck to neck. And I'm thinking to myself, they're not telling us the truth. The polls were being skewed, I guess maybe to make people decide not to vote. But I think in the end, the call for early voting and the anger of the American public about us being what we're founded upon compared to what they're trying to turn us into, I think really struck home. And your book just digs well deep into this. You broke it down into chapters by months. Explain that.
Well, it's the 12 months of privilege. You didn't know that? I mean, when I write these things, I do it like Limbaugh used to say, to use absurdity or irreverent humor to illustrate truth, right? So I figured, I said, you know what? I'm going to go through an entire calendar year of wokeism, starting with chapter 1, January, and chapter 12, December. And that's why you don't necessarily need to read it cover to cover. You can jump around a little bit. You can jump right to November if you want. Because I wanted to sort of poke fun at different events that take place throughout the year, things that historically had happened, holidays that happen, and have some themes broken down, which I call the 12 months of privilege, right? So, and I try to have fun with this, both the Woking Dead and the White Privilege album. And the White Privilege album is a sequel to the Woking Dead. It's volume 2. You know, the left can't stand to be made fun of. They can't stand.
No, they have no humor.
Right?
Absolutely no humor.
Right. Well, they're joyless. You know, for all the talk of joy, they're absolutely joyless. And, you know, the reality is that there's not a lot of people that, especially in the media, that are willing to sort of weaponize humor, weaponize some of the left's language and use it back against them. So when I'm talking about white privilege or toxic masculinity or the patriarchy, you know, I'm basically kidnapping and abducting some of the things that they try to talk about with us and flipping it on them.
In other words, but I'm going to call you the Don Rickles of wokeism.
Well, I like that. Rickles is one of my favorites for sure. And look, you have to understand something. Comedians, the point of humor, first of all, comedy is the first version of history. Okay. One of the definitions of comedy is tragedy plus time. Okay. Or the definition would be to transfer horror into humor. You can joke about anything, but it better be funny. You can make 9/11 jokes if you want. You can make Holocaust jokes if you want, but it better be, you can make Puerto Rico trash island jokes if you want. Now, you always have to consider your audience, obviously, and your timing, but funny is the key. And, you know, when it comes to the left, with very few exceptions, like Bill Maher, who seems to be sane most of the time, especially when it comes to wokeism, you know, they have twisted themselves up into this little box where the only thing that's funny to them are white male heterosexual Christians that stay married and have a nuclear family, right? That's who they're dunking on, right? They don't see all the potential around them for Kamala jokes, for Pelosi jokes, for, you know, Joe Biden jokes or Obama jokes or, you know, Michelle Obama jokes, whatever it is. So it's just like kind of affirmative action in reverse, in the sense that there are protected groups you're not allowed to dunk on.
Yeah.
You're not allowed. So if you're one of these lazy schmucks at night, like the Jimmys and the Stevens, right? Late night hosts, they're all the same. Bunch of Gen X doughy white guys. The Jimmys and the Stevens and the Seth, they all are telling the same jokes. Their writers all come from the same places. And it's lazy comedy.
Yeah.
It's lazy comedy. It's not Johnny Carson. It's not Jay Leno. It's not even Letterman, who, you know, was a little bit of a left-wing wacko and still is. You know, Craig Ferguson was kind of funny. You go back even further, you know, Dick Cavett and other people, their job was to harness the audience and to be the impresario. Yeah. It wasn't really about them, right? Even with Johnny Johnny would come out and do a couple, little monologue, but, he wasn't going to, necessarily make it personal and start, being an activist when you're there to be the court jester.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that's what's happened. And look, that's why there are some comedians like Ricky Gervais and Dave Chappelle and a few others, Chris Rock, that are willing to go into the weird taboo places. I mean, Chappelle had a guy jump on stage and try to stab him at the Hollywood Bowl for telling trans jokes. Like, if you tell Chappelle you're not allowed to tell trans jokes, guess what he's going to do?
He's going to do a trans joke.
He's going to do his job, which is to not listen to anyone. No one. To basically be, the gatekeepers, the referee of the culture. To check power. To check power. Not to be a company man. Right? Same thing. Ricky Gervais goes to the Golden Globes. And he gets up in front of the weirdest people on earth. And he says, enjoy your dinner, enjoy your drinks. Epstein, Weinstein, Epstein, Weinstein, Epstein, Weinstein. Dunk, dunk, dunk. Dunking on him. P. Diddy, Epstein, Weinstein. P. Diddy. That's who's in the room there. So some of these moments where entertainers do step up, I call them woke Waterloo moments. These are woke Waterloo moments. And there's others. There's others. I mean, Chris Rock lining up all those Bud Lights cases and lighting them up with an AR-15 because Budweiser thought, unbelievably, that it was a good idea to put a tranny in a bathtub with Bud Light pounders. That's their audience. What are they, nuts? But that's the free market of ideas. That's how we check them.
Exactly.
And like
and
Elon,
we're doing that.
And Elon Musk buying Twitter is another woke Waterloo moment, because regardless of what Elon says and does and buys, the fact that he did a digital jailbreak, I mean, that's what that was. This is the biggest digital jailbreak in history, where tons of my clients who are gone, all their accounts were restored. It's unbelievable. And then what did it do? It started to level the playing field. They don't like that. They don't like it. They don't want the playing field leveled. They want us, they want to use ESG and DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, environmental, social governance, as a report card for our behavior.
Yeah.
You like get a phone, it's like, all right, listen, Annie's supposed to call me, but I got to do an Apple update here. And, I got to do an iOS update. You don't even read it. You just scroll through it. I'll give it to Annie. I got to talk to Annie. Yes, you agree. Yes. It's a user agreement. ESG and DEI, modeled on the Chinese social credit score system, is a user agreement that the left uses for us to be an American citizen, for our behavior.
Well, doesn't that already exist in China? Doesn't China already do that?
Well, that's why I called it that's what I said. I said it's like the Chinese social credit system. Right? So it's like, I've got a self-driving car. Wow, this is so cool. I'm in San Francisco. The car's driving itself. And I start telling trans jokes and midget jokes and Italian jokes or Irish jokes.
I'm Italian. Oh, no.
I know. That's why I brought it up, because I'm Irish. That's why I brought it up. Everyone knows what the hell is for Italian people. It's Irish bar where every day of the year is St. Patrick's Day, right?
Oh no! Wait a minute! Don't you know? I always do this. I say, didn't you know St. Patrick was from Italy?
Well, he was Roman. He was Roman. He wasn't from Italy.
Rome is the heart of Italy. It's the heart of Italy.
I understand that, but he wasn't from the boot. He was actually from like the Pyrenees Mountains areas. The Pyrenees Mountains. Anyway, so look, that's not Italy. That's now part of Spain. Anyway, all right. So my point is this: you're in the self-driving car, and you're telling jokes or having a conversation let's say you're reading Huckleberry Finn out loud. Now, Huckleberry Finn is filled with a word that only rappers are allowed to use. Okay, so if you start reading Huckleberry Finn out loud, the car, because now you've got to it stops itself, it locks you in. You're in like the racist self-driving car prison, and it's deciding you have failed the ESG DEI test. The car will stop moving. The authorities have been alerted. They're on their way to round you up and take you to the gulag with Rice and Ubelis. So that's where they would like to take us. And obviously, Trump cleaning their clock saved us at least for 4 years. But, they're going to stop using this term woke because Elon and Vivek and Rice and Bill Burr and many people we've mocked Gutfeld. We've mocked the hell out of them to a point where they're going to have to come up with a new word, but they're not going to go anywhere because these people are cultural Marxists.
Yes.
So they're like an STD.
Parasites.
They're like an STD that like herpes that flames up, or like a tapeworm that gets inside the body politic, termites that get into your house, and they're going to go aground and they're going to wait for their next opportunity to reappear. Right? So have we hit peak woke? In terms of the word woke, we might have. But when you're talking about the long march through the institutions,
there we go.
The levers of our culture. No, we have not. The cultural Marxists will burrow in and they will reappear soon enough.
Yeah. I mean, they've been in our society for decades already. And some of us saw it. The Confucius schools, the Chinese attached to our elementary and kindergarten classes.
Confucian institutes.
Yes. And now these same children are now going into the universities where, again, DEI and all the other alphabet soups is thrust upon them. And how dare you feel like you're better than me because you're white? Wait a minute. First off, I don't think I'm better than anyone in society. God put me in this planet at this spot. So God did not make a mistake. It's what I do with what I have makes me who I am. But to turn around and simply because the color of your skin, you're not allowed. Oh, wait a minute. Didn't that happen before?
Yeah, pretty much.
But and you point out, I'm sorry, I apologize, but you point out in the book where they're turning around, well, the United States is slavery as if we were the only culture that had slavery.
Oh, God.
Slavery existed.
It's the oldest institution. No, it's the oldest institution. We were the last ones to have it. Although it's going on right now in the Sudan and other parts of sub-Saharan Africa, and it's going on in China, obviously with the Falun Gong and the Uyghurs and the rest of it. I mean, look, they're organ harvesting these people. So when you see someone siding with the CCP, I don't care whether it's Kamala Harris or Tim Walz or LeBron James, they're siding with the organ harvesters. I hope you're happy, right? I hope you're happy. Los Angeles Lakers Hall of Famer LeBron James loves the organ harvesters. Why does he love them? And he came out against the protesters in Hong Kong. He was with the regime. LeBron likes the regime. He likes the regime. He does what he's told, LeBron. It's like a Pez dispenser for wokeism. He was putting out a movie that no one saw. It was a sequel to the Michael Jordan movie Space Jam called Space Jam 2. And he wanted to make sure he got distribution in China. So, like a good little Muppet puppet Mao Zedong bootlicker, LeBron threw in with the regime. Okay?
Exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, look at Hollywood. Hollywood is now being censored. They have been for more than a decade censored by the communist Chinese. And how many ports do they own? How many buildings? And they're building up houses, buying up houses and apartments here in the United States. I mean, they are now
farmland.
Exactly. Smithfield meets again Chinese communism.
Well, like large swaths. It's funny you bring this up. I was watching Dr. Phil interview, of all people, He's interviewing Trump. Now, Dr. Phil, he's been out there campaigning for Trump. He's another person that had it with wokeism. So he's interviewing Trump, and he pulled up, I swear to God, you can find this online. He pulls up a map of the United States with Trump. He goes, now listen, Donald, Mr. President. he says, and he gets up and he shows us the map of the United States. He goes, I'm going to show you all the farmland in red that the Chinese Communist Party have purchased in the Midwest and across the United States. So he puts up this map of the United States, and all these little red boxes start appearing. Then he goes, now I'm going to show you where all our military bases are across the United States. And would you know it? Would you know it? Encircled by these red boxes, these little blue dots show up, surrounded by Chinese farmland. Now, this is not Steve Bannon. This is not Jones. This is not Tucker or Russell Brand. This is not, Stu Peters or whoever you like that you think is wrong all the time. This is Dr. Phil saying, hey, I'm Dr. Phil. I'm Dr. Phil. I was discovered by Oprah. I'm a little concerned that our bases are being encircled by Chinese farmland. Right? Does no one care? I mean, I'm just looking at these graphics side by sides, and I'm like, holy, it's just nuts. It's nuts. It's nuts. Yeah. And, Trump ain't going to allow that. That's done. Yeah. I mean, I remember when people, freaked out about the Dubai Ports World. Remember Dubai Ports World? They were going to try to buy part of the port of San Francisco or something. And Michael Savage and Limbaugh and a bunch of people went crazy. Levin, Hannity, Laura, they all went crazy. And I think George W. Bush backed down on this sale. They were going to sell this whole section of, I guess, the port in, maybe it was in LA, it was somewhere in California, to the country of to Dubai. And it didn't happen. So, meanwhile, we all freaked out about that. The Chinese, through, as you mentioned a minute ago, it's called the Belt and Road Program.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. I was talking about that a lot.
Yeah,
I talk about that.
Deals. Yeah, they cut deals with third world countries that need redevelopment. And they basically say, look, we will develop your country. But when the time comes, it's kind of like the Godfather, right? I'm going to call upon you for a favor at some point, right? And that is what has gone on here. What are these third world dumps? Because that's what most of these places are. What are they going to say to the Chinese? Yeah. There's like, we're going to build all your roads and bridges and stuff, but when we need some bullet sponges from your country during World War III, we're going to come in and take them. So, or we want your natural resources, for chips or for fossil fuels, whatever the hell it is, right? Rare earth minerals, whatever. So we're in a strategic game, and we've got the reanimated corpse president farting, laughing, and we got the desk jockey laughing. I hear it. She's under the desk, laughing from under the desk. And it's like, is there no more serious people? Where the hell are all the serious people? I got the chairman of the Joint Chiefs are worried about white rage, and that's in this book. I talk about Captain Crunch or General Mills or General So's Chicken, whoever. Millie, that's his name, General Millie.
Millie Vanilli, I call him.
Yeah, Millie Schmuckface. But the point is, that's what they're worried about. White rage, and they're worried about making sure we can finance gender reassignment surgeries at the Space Force. I'm going to go into the Space Force and say, listen, I'm an Earthling. I want you to make me a Klingon. No, I'm joking. The point is, they're worried about female jumpsuits for pregnant women, fighter pilots. I mean, my God. I mean, it's just Meanwhile, the Chinese are encircling us. And, the Iran's doing whatever the hell it wants. So little Rocket Man's firing stuff into the Sea of Japan. It's like we've been on a sabbatical here for 4 years. So it'd be nice to get some real ass kickers back into Washington.
Well, I found it interesting when we were talking about China that North Korea has sent soldiers to work side by side, to fight side by side in Ukraine. Now, North Korea's not going to do that unless China turns around and says, go ahead. You know it. So again, China is pulling the strings worldwide. Look at the World Health Organization. Who's in charge of that? Chinese. They've been trying to do this treaty where we no longer are a sovereign nation, and they have the right to come in and turn around and say, well, you've got a health emergency because you own guns. You have a health emergency because you voted for Donald Trump. They can then declare anything a health emergency and again find us locked down in our homes wearing masks. What better way to control the population than with masks? And don't get me started on that, because I actually got tossed out of a hospital because I wasn't wearing a mask. I got a hold of the senior, the chief surgeon, and within 24 hours, that was rescinded and apologized with his cell phone number on my phone. So, I know the fight for masks. But, it's your book encompasses all these things we're talking about. You break it down and how they use things such as injuries to certain sports figures in football. And say, oh, no, this is because of white supremacy, this and that. Alzheimer's disease, they use it against us. Diabetes, they use it against us. If there's something they can turn into a weapon against us, because we believe in the founding principles of this nation. We believe in all that was fought for long before we became a nation. The codifying of British common law by King Harold, the Magna Carta that turned around and told the king that he didn't have power over everyone as well as he thought, which brought us now the Pilgrims here to the United States with the Mayflower Compact, the first time someone that was treated as an equal in the entire ship. You had people that were servants, that were indentured servants, but they were equal in their voice and vote. It didn't matter. The first time that has ever happened, which brought us now to the Iroquois charters that Benjamin Franklin and John Adams studied, which helped them, good Lord, create the Declaration of Independence and help write the Constitution. Sure. These are all founding principles that have come through centuries.
So when
this is the first nation to be as free as we are.
Oh, without a doubt. When you hear the left, cultural Marxists, the Woking Dead, the social justice warriors talking about white privilege, let me help decode what exactly they're talking about. At the most macro level, it's some of what you're just saying. It's Western civilization. They don't like it. It has to go. So Greco-Roman, Judeo-Christian civilization, the four legs of the West. So, really from Moscow to, San Diego. And it has to go. It has to go for a couple reasons. They think it's a colonial power, that it's a institutions of slavery, the 1619 Project. But you have to understand something about civilizations. Uncle Pat Buchanan taught us this, and the left wasn't listening, 40 years ago when he said it. They're listening now. That is that not all civilizations are created equal, and not all cultures are created equal, and that we are not a multicultural country. We have one culture here, Western culture. We are a multi-ethnic country, for sure, right? But we have one culture. And that's not to say that, we can't be a melting pot and have out of one many. I mean, you can bring sushi and Cinco de Mayo and St. Patrick's Day and yoga and whatever you want. Somebody want to eat some samosas, whatever the hell it is. I love cultural appropriation. It's amazing. I talk about that in the book. Everyone should try it. Thanksgiving's coming up. I'm going to dress up like a pilgrim, and Elizabeth Warren will dress up like an Indian. And we'll celebrate Thanksgiving. But just because we do these things, we go out on Cinco de Mayo, we have a tequila shot, whatever it is, doesn't mean we're getting rid of the Mayflower Compact, the Magna Carta, the Bill of Rights, English common law, the scientific method. We're not throwing those out for you. We're not. It's not happening.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Because we are peak Western culture here. It's the most successful culture in Earth's history. And we've got one. Most civilizations go away. They don't last. This one won't if the cultural Marxists get their way. So at the macro level, when you hear about white privilege, right? And although they can say it was about George Floyd and it was about the Confederate general statues, I told everyone with The Walking Dead and now that they were never going to stop with the Confederate generals. They came for the Union generals immediately. Immediately. Soon as Stonewall Jackson and Lee were gone, they came for Grant and Sherman. Did you think they weren't going to come for Grant and Sherman? Because they've come since for Mark Twain and Churchill and Columbus and everybody. They've come for everybody, right? They took a statue of me down in Philadelphia. I'm joking. There's no statue of me yet. But I mean, look, in Charleston, they took down the statue of Calhoun, I believe, but they left the statue up of Francis Marion, the Swamp Fox. So this goes on. Even in England, they're tearing down statues of Churchill and Thatcher and Benjamin Disraeli and whoever the hell else. It's insane. When the Queen of England died, the hags on The View, the crones on The View, oh, this was the leader of a white supremacy empire that built on the back of slavery. The English got rid of slavery by voting on it in Parliament.
Exactly.
We, on the other hand, are the only country in history to go to war with itself to end slavery. We lost 600,000 people almost, on both sides. And just remember, American slavery only existed from 1776 to 1865. So it's not 400 years of American slavery. America's not even 400 years old. It's about 90 years. 90. It's not 400. And it was brutal. Brutal. Take a trip around Central Virginia sometime. Look at the body count at Bull Run and the Wilderness and Chancellorsville and Fredericksburg and Sailors Creek. Believe me, it was brutal. It was brutal. Which is why, Lincoln wanted it over as quick as possible. Now, and then he pardoned all the Confederate generals, which today, oh my God, we have a special counsel to investigate Lincoln for pardoning Robert E. Lee and Beauregard and Pickett and whoever the hell else. So look, the second thing they're after when they talk about white privilege is the middle class. They hate it. They hate the middle class. They've always hated the middle class. Kamala can say she's from the middle class all day long. She was telling Biden during that debate that, she was part of the forced busing issue. So I don't know what middle class person is doing forced busing.
This gets me crazy when she turns around and she goes, "Oh, pity me because I was the part of the force." So was I at the same time. Meanwhile, I had a younger brother and sister. I had to make sure they got on their bus. So by the time they did, I missed mine and I had to walk 2 miles to school. So I would take the bus home, but because of forced busing, I had to walk the 2 miles where the school I would have gone to was only 3 blocks away from my house. So don't tell me about forced busing and tell me that how you are the victim.
Listen to me. There's a term in rap music. It's called when somebody's a studio gangster. Okay? Studio gangster is somebody that's not from the streets. They are just made up. They're just some random black dude you found at the mall.
Oh, that's Kamala Harris.
Standing in
Queen
line.
Kamala.
Standing in line at Dippin' Dots. And you auto-tuned his voice and you put a few beats under him, and now he's a studio gangster. Ice Cube and Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg talk about him all the time in old school hip hop, and and LL and the rest of them. I will tell you, Barack Obama goes to Pittsburgh, and he goes in to talk to the brothers, and he's got this room full of the brothers and a bunch of Pittsburgh Steelers fans, and he decides to say, Kamala's from the neighborhood. Now, I don't know which neighborhood she's from. The Canadian McGill University, the whitest neighborhood in Canada, where our mom was going to McGill. Kamala's from the neighborhood, and you need to vote for her because she's from the neighborhood. I know you're not comfortable with a woman. You might be a misogynist. Vote for the skin color because she's from the neighborhood. Now, I can't keep it straight. Is she forced busing? Is she from a middle-class family? Is she Indian? Is she Jamaican? Is she Canadian? Is she from the neighborhood, brothers? So I don't know which of these things, but this is why she lost. Because she's a studio gangster. She is a phony, and you can't hide the phonies anymore in America. And there's got to be some part of this room full of black men looking at Obama going, listen up. The second black president standing in front of him, because remember, the first black president was a white guy from Arkansas. What did you do for us? You were president for 8 years. You were fundraising for your library. I know that. You didn't put any black people on the Supreme Court. You put two, paging J.D. Vance, you put two childless, unmarried cat ladies listening to Taylor Swift, Sotomayor and Kagan, put them on the Supreme Court. Obama got a third shot to nominate a black person to the Supreme Court, and he chose your current attorney general who's on his way out and better get a good lawyer. Better preserve all those documents, Merrick Garland. Okay? You better preserve all those documents. So the only black people ever put on the Supreme Court were put there by white males. Can I get white males for 1,000, Alex? So yes, it is our privilege, white privilege, to be the only people that will put black people on the Supreme Court, right? So whether it's Thurgood Marshall or Clarence Thomas or this wacko that Biden put up there, they were all put up there by white males. So how does that make you feel, blue-haired people? Come on, blue-haired people. So look, they hate the middle class, which is why they try to break the middle class. The economic Marxists knew that they were never going to get the revolution they wanted here because we have a vibrant middle class. So you have to create a nation of peasants through inflation, through defunding the police, through redistributing the third world to your front yard. And that's how you destroy the middle class. And the middle class, even though Kamala says she's a member of it, they turned down for Donald Trump and they said, GTFO. GTFO. So then the third thing that they're talking about, final thing, when they're talking about white privilege, is the nuclear family. They cannot stand the nuclear family, not just because it will continue Western civilization. They don't like breeders in general. Each human is a carbon footprint, right? And, I believe that happy people have more children. So, what you do is you have to make them as miserable as possible. So
exactly.
Trickle-down wokeism is trickle-down misery. So that's what they're after. That's why they're after it. And look, if you want to come to the United States legally, you can come here and you can participate in the nuclear family and the middle class and Western civilization, right? And the great experiment. That's your right. Do it. It's for you. So they don't like that. They're control freaks. So, that's why they're after these three things. And that's why when you're talking about wokeism is pretty much after those three things. Western civilization, the middle class, and the nuclear family.
Well, what better way to destroy us as a nation than to go after the children? They do it with pro-choice. And then if they can't do it and succeed with pro-choice because pro-life is fighting back, well, let's go into the classroom and talk about genders and sexes and intercourse and all these things that a 3, 4, and 5-year-old shouldn't hear about, much less an 8 or 9-year-old. And then convince them when they're talking to an adult who's looking for someone. These children are looking for guidance. They need someone to lead them. And you got someone telling them that they're in the wrong gender. So now you destroy the child. You couldn't kill it in the womb. You destroy it before it becomes an adult and can reproduce. And that's how you take out our civilization. And they're doing that.
And that's the campaign she ran. You know, that's the campaign she ran. I mean, she was just talking about abortion the whole time. And, you know, mothers, sisters, and daughters all have fathers, brothers, and husbands. And generally speaking, you know, I don't know whether I get my wife in here to agree with this, but, you know, generally speaking, we don't suck. Generally, men don't suck. But Harris's emphasis on abortion was primarily targeted to women voters. Now, she lost the married moms in the suburbs. She lost them. And I saw a poll with the Daily Mail that said that Trump got 40% of women under the age of 30. That is a huge number.
And what's the
pitch to men? Annie, really, what's the pitch to men? Vote for me. I'll make sure, you know, your girlfriend will abort your future son. I mean, what exactly is the pitch there? Here's the thing.
There is none. And that's why we saw a record number of young voters, male, between the age of 18 to 29. Record number of them voting for Donald Trump. Now, these are the ones that have already been through the wokeism propaganda.
Me Too movement. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, all that. So now they turn because men realize that they actually are masculine. There is something about being a man that is definitely different than a woman. And if you take away that ability to provide for a house and a job and be comfortable in your life, that's why they lost. And they're not giving that to them. Wokeism is not working.
That's right. And you have really second, maybe just third and fourth wave feminism has spent decades telling girls that men are unnecessary at best and predators at worst. And the Me Too movement reinforced that. Men need to take it down a notch. Toxic masculinity. Get these stupid panels on MSNBC. You know, men are in crisis. Get some wacko woman. She really looked like wife material too, let me tell you. Just wacko woman on MSNBC. She's on MSNBC. Men are in crisis. They're alone. They're drinking. This sounds like heaven, by the way. They're alone. They're drinking and they're listening to Joe Rogan being bitter about their wife earning more money than them. No, we're not. No, we're not. And look, let me just give a big shout out to Baron Trump, who's going to be your president someday.
I know. I love the guy.
Baron Trump was the one that told the Don, hey, you want to go find some of these undecided voters? Let me tell you where you go. You go into places like Rogan and Barstool Sports and these comedy podcasts and the what they call the manosphere, because that's where they were hiding. That's where they were hiding. People that, you know, they just want to listen to Rogan. They don't want to be preached to about one freaking party or another. But look, extremists told men that they were unnecessary, and it backfired. It backfired big time because there's not as many of them as you think. We were told that all women care about is, you know, the ability to have, you know, sex and then go to start popping morning after pills like they're Tic Tacs. Here's the thing, and this is no disrespect to you, Annie, who I'm assuming is a boomer, and my mother, you know, who also is a boomer. But when I would turn on these commercials about abortion and pro-life or pro-choice, it was always some old woman talking about abortion that she went through menopause 30, 40 years ago. Like, how are you relatable? What, you're gonna jump on the Roe v. Wade landmine? I got news for you. millennial women and Gen Z women, and I'm married to one, and I am a millennial. We know how to have sex and not get pregnant. And this might be a news flash, but we know how to do that. Yeah, every once in a while there's a moment, an oopsie moment or something. But if you look at the numbers, we know how to do it. So when you see these stories about all these vasectomies that are taking place, I mean, if you're a male that votes Democrat and you're not, hanging out at Pete Buttigieg's house, and you want to have a vasectomy, I say go for it. And if if you're some left wing, giant blue haired monster that wants to withhold sex, honey, no one wanted you anyway. Okay, you're saving us all from having future versions of you. So I'm perfectly okay with that. You go ahead, get thee to a nunnery. Get thee to a nunnery. You want to be celibate? Go get thee to a nunnery.
Well, it's funny because as you said, I grew up through all that, with the feminist movement and the passing of vote.
Were you a cop? Were you a cop in New York City?
Yep.
So you know what it's like to be a female? I mean, you want to talk about giving these dumb dingy broads lessons.
I'll
try
tell you
being
this.
a baby boomer police officer, female in New York City, and whenever the hell you were there in the 60s and 70s and 80s. I mean, are you kidding me?
There was less than
you deserve a PhD in feminism.
No, there was for us there was less than 20% of the force were female.
Sure.
And a large portion of them were put in administrative jobs. Those of us that had to be on the street. My first day straight out of the police academy, I'm standing there roll call, and one of these old timers, hairbag called him, would say, "Where's your pocketbook?"
Oh yeah.
All the things that we had to go through. Our locker room didn't even have a shower. We didn't even have bunks if we had to go through a 24-hour shift. For us, we had to fight for that. And you want to go in to eat your meal in the meal room? They put porno on the thing. As soon as a female walks in, there goes the porno.
Oh no, the good old days.
The crap that I went through. But we stood our ground. We stood our ground. We took it, and we turned around. And when someone come in our face, we would let them know. And we got our bathrooms, we got our bunks, and then we got the respect. We fought for it, and we did it the right way. We didn't turn around and say, you're doing that simply because I'm a female and I have the privilege now, so you can't. No. We turned around. We went to them individual to individual, person to person. And that's the difference between us and the left. If something happens to them, then it's horrible for the whole world.
That's right. It's the first time it's ever happened, right? Yeah. Obviously, they're unaware that most of humanity kind of sucks for like all time. We enslave each other. We do this. We do that. I mean, we're terrible. We actually have it pretty good right now. Mm-hmm. We do. In the grand scheme of, eat your neighbor's entrails versus, wave to Gary because he's, talk a little trash because they got a different political sign in their yard than you do. Other than that, I mean, but they want to divide us, which is why they pump this stuff in here. They want blacks on whites. They want Hispanics or the new white supremacists because they voted for Trump. It's just craziness.
It is
because of, and I write about this in the book, because if we all give them the double bird, they will lose power. They will lose their customers.
Exactly.
See, this wokeism is a cottage industry. Just like you can major in college now in climate change, feminism, and this other just one crazy thing after another. Because if you can get grants or foundation money,
it's billion-dollar business
for global warming garbage science, vaccination garbage science, there's 72 genders garbage science, whatever the hell it is, then they can perpetuate it forever. Right?
Exactly. You follow the Benjamins, and then you know what the heart of the whole thing is. You follow and I always say, follow the Benjamins. I'm looking at the clock. We got 5 minutes left. The this whole thing went so fast. I knew the second I got you on there. That's why I gave you the whole show. Normally I split it up with a couple of people, and you know that we've worked together for a long time now. But your book is The White Privilege Album, bringing racial harmony to very fine people on both sides, which they can find at whiteprivilegealbum.com. Plus, you also are on Substack, which is the Publius Nation up on Substack.
The Publius National Post. Publius National
thank you.
Post. Yeah.
I subscribe to it. You know that.
Oh, yeah. And look, you can get the book anywhere. You don't have to go to that website. You can get anywhere books are sold. Books A Million, Barnes & Noble, Amazon. And look, we just put out a paperback of The Walking Dead. So you can get volume 1 and volume 2 together for a pretty good price right now. So we got the hardback on Amazon discounted. You can get them both for, a pretty good deal, especially with the holidays coming up. You've got like a niece or nephew that doesn't know what gender they are. Absolutely get them these 2 books, because if it doesn't convert them, it'll at least send them into a, coma.
Well, I have some books left over that I'm going to be giving away on the show. So people can turn around, email me through our website, give me a good reason why to send you one of these books. And if it's the best, I'll get a hold of you and I'll send it to you. I gave 3 of them away when we had our election night watch party. Awesome. So, yeah. So, folks, we will be back here next week. AJ, you can always find him at whiteprivilege.com. And I forget who my guests are for next week, but we got 2 of them lined up. So we will see you there. And then AJ, it has been so much fun. I'm going to have to get a hold of my co-host and find out whether or not he still has his hand stuck in a pile of in his house.
That's next week's guest.
Yes, I want to thank you and for joining us. And, I'm just a phone call or text message away, and you do great work through Publius PR and all the stuff you do. God bless you, sir. You are a great American.
Thank you. You're a patriot. Absolutely.
Until then, I say good night and God.
I'm praying for this land I love, America, America, the home of the free. But there are people making plans to change America. They've no respect for her or what matters most to me. That's why I stand for the flag and I kneel at the cross. Mourn for the friends I have loved and lost. And I still believe in God we trust, and the freedom our forefathers granted us. I hope it's not too late to save America. Do you hear our battle cry across America? We've got to rescue her. You know it's up to me and you to see the truth behind their lies. Don't change America. God bless America and the red, white, and blue. Why I stand for the flag and I kneel at the cross. Mourn for the friends I have loved and lost. And I still believe in God we trust, and the freedom our forefathers granted us. I hope it's not too late to save America. have loved and lost, and we still believe in God we trust. The freedom our forefathers granted us, we know it's not too late to save America. Save America. Let's save America. Together we can save America.